Welcome to How to Run Profitable Retreats podcast, the podcast that guides you not to only host retreats that thrive financially, but also transform people's lives. I'm your host, Lainey Cavazos, and each week I bring you the best strategies and personal insights to help you create retreat experiences that transform lives, both your clients and your own. In our journey together, we'll dive into the secrets behind successful retreats, from crafting a unique atmosphere to mastering the logistics that ensure profitability. Whether you're tuning in for inspiring interviews with leading retreat experts or seeking actionable advice in our solo episodes, this podcast is your go-to resource for turning your retreat visions into reality. Don't miss out on any of our episodes and subscribe now. For more tools and a free guide on creating your own six-figure retreat business, visit theretreatplanner.com. Now let's get started and make your retreat dreams come true.
Hello there. So welcome to this new episode. And I'm so excited that today we have April Gaines joining us to talk about building permanent self-esteem. And I believe this is something that is so important in this space, because how can we trust anyone else if we don't feel great about ourselves and who we are, right? So it's so important to put ourselves first so then we can serve other ones better, right? And April is such an expert here. She's an author, she's a professional mental health and substance abuse counselor. And I think this is something absolutely amazing. A certified advanced alcohol and addictions counselor through MACBAC of Michigan. And she has spent 22 years studying and obtaining numerous degrees and certificates in mental health, substance abuse, healing, and spirituality domains. So she brings spirituality into her counseling, and it's absolutely amazing because it really is a game changer, right? And she has Reiki certification. She's a healing master, Amadeus energy healer, hypnotherapist, past life regression. Like, honestly, I can keep going on. It's amazing. Certified auricular acupuncturist and clairvoyant psychic medium. So look at all these amazing tools that she brings to the table. I'm so honored to be with you today. Like, it's such a pleasure. And really, her mission is to help people develop permanent self-esteem and inner peace through awareness. So, like, it's just about how people have innate worth, value, and purpose in their lives. And she has the gift of being a psychic medium where she gets the privilege to heal many souls. And if I remember properly, I think you've been a psychic medium for like since many probably lifetimes ago. Right? Not even just these lifetimes. It's amazing. And really, her practice is to heal and spread the love and light into the world. So she has courses to teach permanent self-esteem and inner peace, and a tarot card mastery and psychic ability development course. So if anyone here listening wants to become really connected to the psychic abilities, she is your woman for this, right? And she is part of the weekly Eckhart Tolle spiritual panel. So really, she knows what she's talking about. I'm going to stop now because I could go on for an hour just talking about everything that she has in her toolbox. But the reality is that what's really important is the way she teaches, right? And then how she brings this into the world and her passion behind it. So I'm so glad and honored to be with you here today and to get to spend some time together and talk about self-esteem, right? It's something that I believe we all struggle with, like self-esteem. It's not something that only some people get, right?
Right. Yeah. So thank you. Yeah. And the self-esteem, I have found it to be pretty much across the world. So I have talked, with people in different countries and who are from different areas, of the world. And this issue is worldwide. To me, low self-esteem is an epidemic. It's truly an epidemic. Not believing in ourselves, not knowing who we are, not knowing that we have that innate worth. And because of my life and things that happened to me in my life, and then finding myself in a space where I had no self-esteem, zero. I even remember one time it was a friend of mine, like a girlfriend. And she looked at me one day and she said, April, don't you know that you're the one that um, guys will turn their head at? And I was shocked. I had no clue, zero, that I was even cute, like nothing. So, and I found that to be, and I find it with people and with clients, that is the source of our pain. That is truly the source of our pain. So my mission is to heal that. I figured out how to heal it in myself. And my goal was actually to, if I could fix myself, then I would save my girls, I have 5 girls, from going through and living the life that I lived. That was my mission, really, ultimately. So I was on this soul healing journey, on this, steadfast mission to save my children, which of course, and it ended up saving me. So that's one of the reasons for all the degrees and certificates, because I was searching and searching. Okay, well, let me try this and see if this will help, and let me try that. So I just ended up with this massive uh, list of things. So self-esteem, and many people also, self-esteem is what you think about yourself, how you value yourself, and how you see yourself. And most people see themselves through the eyes of somebody else or through the eyes of the world. They don't see themselves through their own eyes and through the eyes of source.
Right.
And that's
Yeah.
where I bridge the spirituality and the self-esteem together. Yeah.
I really like what you're saying, right? Because so many of us are basically, we even judge our looks from what we see in the mirror, right? It's not even like, if you see your hands, they're kind of like different if you see on the mirror. It's a little bit, it's
Mm-hmm.
a strange example, but we see ourselves through the eyes of the society, of our family, of like, we are intrinsically comparing ourselves with the person next to us. Like, am I skinny or am I fat, right? Compared to my friends, compared to the people I surround myself, right? If you were someone like a little bit overweight and then everyone else was extremely overweight, right? Like obesity kind of thing, you would be the skinny one, right?
Right.
But in another
Right.
scenario, you are not
Mm-hmm.
the skinny one.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying here anything that skinny or not skinny is the right way. I believe healthy is the right way. Like as long as you're healthy and you're taking care of your body like the temple and honoring as it is, then you're on the right path, right? And it's okay if sometimes you slip. Like, don't be so hard on yourself, because then sometimes you end up not enjoying life, right? Because you're like, this is so terrible. Like, stop it, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
everything you're saying is so powerful.
We get so it's actually between the ages of 0 and 7 when the brain is in what we call theta state and its programming state. If you've ever listened to like Bruce Lipton or whatever, he describes this, but it's really it's also taught in like counseling, like the good degrees that I have. So that is literally programming state. So it's everything that's happening during that time is becoming absorbed into the person, into the child. And it's teaching them how to be a person, how to be a family member, how to be a brother, a sister. And we get messages from the people that raise us, and we take those messages as truth.
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal thing that at a very little age, so 3 years old, I made this belief that I was not loved. That was my belief. I was not loved. Nobody loved me. Nobody wanted me. That belief followed me until I was 27, when I really had my like I made my change, my shift. That was when it really started to happen. That belief for 24 years followed me. But the little child makes that decision, because for the child, everything goes inward. Everything becomes personal. Everything becomes about them. The same concept as you heard, children will say that the moon is following them. The moon does not follow them. The moon stays still, but they'll say, "Oh, mom, look, the moon's following us," right? Because everything goes internal. So anything that's happening in their world, and if it is negative, it's going inside. And even if it's not so negative, but somehow they're getting the message like, you need to try harder or you need to run faster, then the child will create a message, a belief that says, I'm not good enough. And then that belief will follow them for the rest of their life. So what I do is we go back to the belief. We realize that the child's mind made it, that it probably was never true in the first place. And then we rebuild their self-image. And we learn to judge, one, because our parents do this, and two, because, well, we need to know if the glass is half full so that we stop pouring the liquid, right?
Yeah.
But we take it so far. We take it way, way too far. And the ultimate answer is learning that to have unconditional love for yourself. So what I did was on this path, there was a space in there where I realized that I was part of source. Like, not that I was just like source's child. A lot of us say, oh, we're children of God. I am part of source. That means me and source are the same, right? And if I am part of source and source is perfect, it's perfect, then there must be a space of me that's perfect. And that's the space that I connect to. That is the space that tells me I have innate worth. And that includes my faults. That includes the things that aren't so great about me. Those are perfect too. That doesn't mean I like them all, right?
Yeah.
But if I am part of source and source is this perfect being or energy, then I am perfect. Not in an ego way, but in an unconditionally loving way. So that's what I teach people. The other thing is that we have a confusion that your worth is tied to what you do. Worth has nothing to do with what you do. And my perfect example of this is babies. So, and I've had a ton of babies. So I have 5 girls and a niece, and then I have 12 grandkids. So I am all about, I know about the babies. Yes. So
you're an expert.
babies, when you look at babies, okay, what do they do? What do babies do? Babies, they cry, they poop themselves, they throw up, they spit up, they don't want to eat, they don't want to sleep, they throw temper tantrum, right? They do all these things. So if I say to you, I'm going to give you this person, they kind of throw up, they kind of cry, they kind of don't sleep, you would be like, but what are they worth? In a way, they kind of do all the wrong things, but they're worth everything.
Right.
It's not what you do. That's not where your worth comes from. Your worth is there just because you are there. It's innate. Don't have to do anything to be worthy. That's another thing that I really teach. Now, your purpose is different. My purpose is to work with people or flowers or dogs, or that's different. That's not your worth. So, and that's the other part of the message that I really want. And when you can really embrace that, I don't have to do anything to be worthy. I have worth. Then you're embracing that unconditional love that is source.
Right. It makes such a difference, right? It's really a game changer when we learn how to split, right? What worth is kind of like considered as like, oh, did you have a career, a degree, or you top lawyer, or are you cook, right? And then we value ourselves based on what the society tells us that you're supposed to be valued on. But the reality is that whatever you do, right, it doesn't matter as long as you do it with passion and you are there, then it's good. Like, even if you didn't choose exactly this career path, but if you bring your heart into what you're doing, right, because you're like, you choose, right, it's a choice, right, you choose to be happy
Mm-hmm.
regardless of the circumstances, right?
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
game changer.
Yeah. I follow the book, The Four Agreements.
Mm-hmm.
That book, Don Miguel, what was his name? Uh, that was a game changer. That was a life-changing book for me. And I always follow that I am just going to do my best.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be perfect. I'm not going to try to be perfect. I'm going to try to do my best. And doing my best does include putting my heart and my soul into what I'm doing. I truly want to help people. And that's where I base that off of. So I totally believe in that.
Right. There is this well, it's not really a story, but this is something that like Deepak Chopra said, right? Like he was born in India in a very, very poor town, like really from poverty, right? And his father told him, this is not your reality. You get to create your reality. And then he had all these books and he was reading, and look at him now, right? Like
Mhm.
he didn't allow anything around him to stop him. He created his own because he knew that he was not that town, right? He
Yep.
knew that was like those were, yes, the things that were surrounding him, but they were not the determinators of who he was.
Yeah. Right. And you have to believe in yourself, and you can't be, judging yourself all the time in order to do that. And I find people do that all the time. The other issue people that I have found across the globe is anxiety.
Right.
It's worry. People are always projecting into the future and trying to protect themselves from some bad thing happening or some bad event. And they're missing the current now moment because they're in the
Mm-hmm.
future, right?
Yes.
That's the other. So the
It happens a
self-esteem
lot.
and yeah, it does. It really does. And that's another thing that I work with a lot and teach people how to basically eliminate the anxiety. The permanent self-esteem comes from a program that I developed to teach people how to know who they are down to the core. So they're on the soul level, who they are, and then how to not be influenced or not be affected by all the things that are happening in the world. So maybe your mom says something, or maybe the lady at the store looks at you funny, or those kinds of things, because you
Mm-hmm.
know who you are. And once you know who you are and your true worth, those things don't matter to you. They don't affect you.
Right. Yeah, this is like, it has so much power because it is so true. And it's part of being human, to be honest. So, anyone who's listening, like, please don't start judging yourself because, you judge yourself because this can happen, right?
Right.
Right.
No, we don't
It,
want to
hap-
do that.
it happens to all of us. Like, it's part of our process, but now we get to do a choice, right? Do we allow this to
Mm-hmm.
continue and keep going and affect our lives in a way that it's definitely not positive, or we choose to change it, right? We choose a different path. We choose not to judge ourselves. We choose to love ourselves. We choose to don't really care if someone has an opinion about you, as long as you're doing things from your heart in the best possible way, right? If you're doing something wrong and someone is telling you this is wrong, then of course, like, listen to that. But if you are really putting your best face forward in life, keep going. Don't let
Mm-hmm.
anything stop you because
Yeah.
you're going places. You're going somewhere. You might not even know where that is, but you are going places, right? So this is so
Yes.
important.
You definitely, that is one of my biggest things. I just had this talk with my children today. Like, you just have to keep going. You have to keep going. Even if it's just a teeny tiny step at a time, you just keep going. And then you just give yourself that unconditional love. You give yourself that forgiveness and you just keep going. This is a journey. It's a learning process. It's not a perfection process. It's a learning process. And you
Right.
just keep going.
This is so important. Like really, if it like there are baby steps, it's okay. But it's just like about keep the energy moving, right? And if we talk about like physics and how like actually vibrations work, what happens when there is a pool and no one moves it and no one moves the water and it's still? It gets green, right? Animals start, ugly animals start growing up. Maybe even a frog comes out of there. And then
Right.
you can't really go and swim anymore, right? Because it's dirty. It probably has some like bacteria that is gonna affect your skin. So if we don't move, it's basically like still water.
Yeah,
It's not
stagnant. Yep.
clear. It's not clear anymore. You can't see the bottom. You can't see where you're going. You can't see anything because it's just like not moving. And that happens exactly the same inside our body. We're made out of like at least 70% water, if it's not like almost 80% water. So if you're not moving, the water inside your body gets stagnant. And imagine basically you're becoming this green pool inside because you're not moving forward. So,
And that's
and just a
exactly
little
what
bit,
happens
right?
with people. Yeah. These events happen in our lives, and that is exactly what happens is they get stuck in that event however many years ago. And exactly, everything is energy. Energy must move. That's a perfect metaphor. Yep.
Yeah. I know it's a like
Perfect.
icky, it's a little bit of an icky metaphor, but it works, right? And
It's perfect.
it just came to me, right? Honestly, I never thought of this metaphor before, but it was just like so clear, like water, like crystal clear water, right? Oh my gosh, I love
Yes.
this. But it's so important, right? To keep moving forward. And if we find judgment, right? If we find like we question ourselves about different things here and there, it's all about like going back, right? And being like, I'm just gonna take one more step to love myself. How does that look like? It can be as simple as just like giving yourself a hug, putting a little pencil in your mouth so you smile, and then you trick your brain into releasing serotonin, right? Honestly, so many times I'm
Yeah.
in the car and I'm like forcing myself to fake smile, and I'm like, I even turn around and I smile to people, and then they're looking at me like, oh my gosh, this weird person is like keeps like she's smiling when she's driving, like what's happening, right? And people are like,
Right.
I actually did once like a test for like a couple of months. I used to live in Dubai, so there's like so many different nationalities. And I would walk to work for like 20 minutes every day, and I would smile to people and I would see if they smiled back or not. And then I started figuring out that there were different nationalities and their response rate on smiling back was different based also on their nationality. I was like, very interesting. But then the more I did it, the more I realized also more people were smiling back at me. Like the first time it was a little bit awkward, right? And probably I was like smiling in an awkward way. I was like, like, like I want to test this, but like, what are people gonna, like,
Right.
think about me? The weird, crazy lady smiling to everyone on the streets, right? And then as the more that I got confident, then it became very natural. And then I would see like more people were smiling back. And I was like, this is nice. Like we're just helping each other be a little bit happier just by smiling.
Yes. That's a good experiment. That does work. One of the main things that I teach people, even in my day job, doing the counseling, is awareness. Awareness is the key. Becoming aware of your thoughts, stepping outside of yourself, learning to step outside of yourself and observe yourself. That is always the first step. And a lot of times I'll get people, they'll fight that first step. Oh, I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. But usually as we keep working on it, they'll start to be able to notice those thoughts. And then you can kind of take note of, what are you thinking? What are you thinking about? And then once you can do that, then you have choice. Then you can make the changes. The first step is getting them aware, because a lot of times they don't even realize that they've been thinking negative, or they beat themselves up all day, or all of that. They don't even notice.
How can you change something if you don't know it exists?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
If you're like, just I'm moody, but why? Who knows and who cares? Then how can you stop?
Right. Yeah. I remember when I first did it, I was with myself years ago. There was a point where I stopped and I was like, oh my gosh, do I even have a good thought? I don't even think I have one. Like, I didn't have any, everything was just negative. And then slowly began to just change that. And now, the amazing thing is that as you do it, you realize you won't have negative thoughts anymore, or it'll be very rare. So the more you do it, then you actually rewire the brain.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing. Like, really, like, for me, it's very connected to that. Like, I'm always trying to be very aware. And when I see something negative, I'm like, I stop and I'm like, where is this coming from? And to be honest, I also have some tricks, right? Like, I don't watch the news.
Yes, that is a
for
good one.
so many years.
I know.
For so many years. I don't. I made a choice, a conscious choice many years ago. I was like, is this bringing me joy? No. Then I'm gonna stop because it's not bringing me joy. And every time I watched the news, I got upset, I got stressed, and I'm like, can I really do something right now to change what's happening behind that news? Not really. What can I really do is just be a better person, be happier, and this resonance is gonna touch to other people, and maybe one day it will touch enough people so there is change. So then there's happy news, right? Like, exactly. I invite everyone to really, that is watching the news, to really think for a second and be like, how many positive news do you hear during your half an hour of news information? Like, how many? Is it 1, 2, 3, 10? Usually for me, I used to remember, I think there was not even one. Sometimes there was not even one.
I was gonna say maybe story, one. Maybe.
Right?
Yeah.
So imagine you're wiring your brain with negative thoughts. So it's all about also starting to bring these opportunities, right? Of bringing joy into every day, right? Doing things that feel good, like just whatever it is, like taking your shoes off and touching the ground, right? That earthing is so powerful. Like, there's so many things that we can do to really shift things and then help us through the process, right? We're not supposed to be suffering in this world. We've been taught that we came here to suffer. Not true. If you are a piece of the universe, of God, of source, however you want to call it, I'm telling you, you're here to create heaven on earth, right? Like, you are here to do that for yourself and for the people around you.
Absolutely.
And that's it. If not, everyone else,
I can't even remember the last time I watched the news. It's been years, and I made the exact same choice. I was like, you know what?
No.
It's just negative. It's all negative, and I don't want that in my energy field. Especially, I'm especially cautious about in the morning and at night before I go to bed. I'm super conscious about what is in my energy field as I'm starting my day and as I'm ending my day. So, yes, definitely.
This is so powerful. So if we could like wrap up these kind of things, we're talking about, you need to become aware, right? And then you need to be a little bit like, try to be more joyful in life, right? In that way. And then no judgment, right? Like, really trying to have like the best version of you and really seeing yourself from the eyes of source. What am I missing?
Yes. That is it, is learning to have the same unconditional love that source has for you, for yourself.
Awesome. I love it. I know it sounds easier than It might be sometimes, right? And then it's also okay to sometimes be great and sometimes not so great, right? Let's be a little bit more gentle and softer and compassionate with ourselves, right? We tend to think that we need to be compassionate to others, but we forget that we also need to be compassionate first here, right? And then from a overflowing cup, then you can go out there and then share your happiness, your joy, and practices and whatnot with other people, right? So it's so important to be compassionate with who you are and just be gentle and understanding and not judging so much, right? So, April, if someone wants to reach out to you to talk more about everything that you teach, how can they do that?
So I do have some courses that I developed for people if they would like. I have the self-esteem course. I have a tarot card course because I was actually born with this ability, the psychic and medium ability. I do read tarot cards, however, I don't need them to read people. They're like a cheat sheet for me. But many people ask about the tarot cards. I do have the psychic ability course. That's something I've been reading the public for at the very least 22 years now. But the easiest way, and my business is called Soul Essentials Healing, because my idea was that I wanted to heal people down to the soul level. The best way, I have all of the social media handles, but however, the best way to get a hold of me is probably through Facebook.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's all about where you spend most of your time.
Yeah,
so
that's
for
the
everyone
easiest
who's
and quickest way.
Amazing. So for anyone who's listening to this episode, it doesn't matter what time it is or which day of the year. I hope you enjoyed it, that you learned something good and juicy that you really want to bring onto the table. And feel free to contact April to learn more about everything that she does and how she can support you through this path in, permanent self-esteem and many, many other things. Like, if you want to learn how to read tarot cards, she's your girl. So thank you so much for joining, and I will see you on our next episode. Bye.
Wow, what a great episode. If you like our podcast, How to Run Profitable Retreats, leave us a review and share it with a friend.